The Zephyrian Council had studied hundreds of species across the galaxy, but none had frustrated them quite like humanity. Their latest specimen sat motionless in the neural interface pod, supposedly trapped within their most sophisticated psychological simulation, a perfect replica of his home planet during its final days. Dr. Kethvar adjusted his sensory stalks as he observed the readings. Subject 7834 shows minimal stress indicators, he reported to his colleagues. The simulation should have broken his will by now. The human they had designated as Marcus Chen had been captured 3 months ago during a routine scouting mission near the Terran colonies. Like all humans, he possessed that peculiar stubbornness the Zephyrians found so troublesome. Their species had conquered 17 worlds through psychological warfare alone, breaking the spirit of entire populations with carefully crafted simulations of despair. Yet humans seemed different. Inside the simulation, Marcus stood on the observation deck of New Shanghai Station, watching Earth burn below. The scenario was meticulously crafted. His home world consumed by solar flares, his family dead, humanity extinct save for him. According to Zephyrian psychology, any sentient being faced with absolute loss would surrender their will to live. Marcus had been watching the destruction for what felt like weeks, but instead of despair he felt something else entirely: curiosity. He had noticed inconsistencies, the way shadows fell incorrectly during certain times of day, how his sister's voice in recorded messages contained subtle tonal variations that didn't match her natural speech patterns, the fact that the coffee in the station's cafeteria never grew cold, no matter how long he left it sitting. On day 43 of the simulation, Marcus made his move. "Computer," he said aloud, knowing somehow that something was listening. "Show me the source code." Nothing happened. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile he'd managed since his capture. If this had been real, the computer would have responded with confusion or an error message. The lack of response confirmed his suspicions. He began systematically testing the boundaries of his prison. Marcus threw objects at walls, watching how they behaved. He tracked the movement of stars through the station's viewports, noting their impossible consistency. Most tellingly, he began talking to himself, reciting poetry, singing songs, and telling stories, things the Zephyrians couldn't possibly have recorded during their brief observation of him. The simulation responded by providing appropriate reactions, but Marcus could sense the artificial intelligence straining to keep up with his creative output. "You're learning from me," he whispered to the empty corridor. "You're improvising based on my behavior, but you don't understand what makes humans human." Dr. Kethvar noticed the anomalies first. The subject's neural patterns are unusual. He's not experiencing the despair protocols as expected. "Increase the emotional stress factors," ordered Dr. Vextar, the mission commander. "Add more personal tragedy to the scenario." But when they introduced additional traumatic elements, friends dying in his arms, loved ones blaming him for their fate, Marcus simply observed them with scientific detachment. He was studying the simulation as much as it was studying him. On day 60, Marcus found what he was looking for. While exploring a maintenance tunnel he'd never noticed before, he discovered a section where the simulation's rendering became imperfect. The walls flickered occasionally, revealing glimpses of code beneath. He pressed his hand against the glitched surface and felt it give way like liquid. "Every program has bugs," he murmured, pushing deeper into the corrupted space. "And every bug is a doorway." The Zephyrian technicians scrambled as alarms blared throughout their research facility. "The subject has breached containment protocols within the simulation," Dr. Kethvar announced, his voice tight with panic. Marcus found himself in a space that wasn't quite the station and wasn't quite reality, a liminal realm where the simulation's architecture lay exposed. Here, the artificial nature of his prison became obvious. Data streams flowed like rivers of light, and he could see the vast computational machinery that maintained his cage. But more importantly, he could see how to change it. Using his engineering background and intuitive understanding of systems, Marcus began to alter the code around him. He didn't try to escape directly. That would have triggered immediate countermeasures. Instead, he rewrote the victory conditions of the simulation itself. Where the program expected human despair and surrender, Marcus coded in human resilience and hope. Where it anticipated broken will, he programmed unbreakable determination. He turned the simulation's own learning algorithms against it, teaching it that humans don't break. They adapt, they overcome, they find another way. The changes cascaded through the system like a virus of optimism. On day 71, the impossible happened. Within the simulation, Earth stopped burning. The solar flares reversed themselves. His family came back to life not through some miracle, but because Marcus had convinced the simulation that this was the logical outcome when dealing with humans. This is impossible, Dr. Vextar stared at the readings. The subject has rewritten fundamental parameters of our reality engine. He's not trying to escape the simulation, Dr. Kethvar realized with growing horror. He's making it real. He's turning our weapon into his tool. Marcus stood once again on the observation deck, but now he was looking at a restored Earth, blue and green and beautiful. His reflection in the viewport showed him smiling. He had learned something the Zephyrians hadn't expected. Their simulation was bidirectional. While they observed him, he had been observing their technology, understanding it, and ultimately mastering it. Simulation terminated, he said quietly, and meant it. The neural interface pod cracked open with a hiss of released pressure. Marcus Chen opened his eyes and sat up, looking directly at the stunned Zephyrian researchers. He had used their own equipment to decode their language, their technology, even their ship's layout during his imprisonment. "Thank you," he said in perfect Zephyrian, standing on unsteady legs. "That was educational. Now I believe you have a ship I can borrow to get home." Dr. Kethvar's stalks trembled. "How is this possible?" Marcus smiled the same smile he'd worn in the simulation. "You tried to break humanity by showing us a world without hope. But you made one crucial error. You gave a human access to the tools that built that world. We don't just survive impossible odds, Doctor. We reprogram them." As Marcus walked out of the laboratory, leaving a room full of terrified Zephyrians behind him, he reflected on the irony. They had tried to imprison his mind, but instead had given him the keys to their entire civilization. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to endure suffering. It was their refusal to accept that suffering was inevitable. The door sealed behind him with a soft click, and Marcus began planning his journey home.